We've got a great lineup today. We're going to have a collector's panel this afternoon at the end of the day, where we're going to, yesterday we talked more about esoteric uses, and we're going to talk about that in some of the talks, but these are going to be the collectors talking about the boards, the values, the market, and all that other kind of stuff, which is really interesting, because I was thinking, if you trade baseball cards or something, the values are pretty well defined, but with these boards, it's all over the map. So it's, and it's a small group, most of them are here. It's so interesting to me, the whole aspect of all of it. And then tonight, we've got our Ouija party / experiment. We've done this in several places now. It's super interesting. Bring your Ouija boards tonight. We'll have a bar open, which is great. It's not an open bar, mind you, but a cash bar in here. And bring your Ouija boards. We're going to do different experiments where we're going to start with just simple, psychic stuff, and we'll use it. I imagine Darren Evans is going to be sitting there alone all night just going, no one wants to use this thing with me, man. I'm just all by myself. Because he's the Zozo guy. Now you get the joke. And you'll hear from him this morning, too. So, anyway. All right, so to kick things off today, we've got all the way from California, someone who's going to talk about using the board to how you get used out of it, talking to your spirit guides, and how she's used it in her life. All the way from California, please welcome Karen Dahlman.
Thank you kindly. I must say I'm really excited to be here, standing here in front of you guys. I'm new to this whole thing. Who else is new to coming to a paranormal event? Yay, there's a few of us. This is my very first. So I'm thrilled to be here in front of you guys. I've kind of been working in the private exclusivity of my home, my bedroom, my dining room table, my friends, my family for 42 years. I've been doing the board consistently, regularly, with exceptional results. So I've got a few things we're going to do today. I didn't bring a fancy presentation, I'm sorry. I just brought myself in my beautiful sleeves. But what I hope to do today is really geared towards what you want to hear, what you want to learn. I'm going to ask you questions in a little bit and try to find out what your intent or your goal, your desire, your drive to use the Ouija board is all about. And then I'm going to gear that conversation to that so we can specifically address your concerns, your needs, and where you want to go with this tool. To me, it's been a real exquisite, exceptional, astounding tool. I do use other tools too, but this is my favorite. Maybe because I've been so fortunate to meet some incredible spirits on the other side, who I would say my life and who I am is better for it. So, what they always tell me is that this is really about learning who you are deep within yourself. That's what this is all about. It's not just about what's paranormal outside our normal experiences. It's about embracing that and looking back within yourself and learning more about who you are. Now you might say, why should you say all this flowery crap? And I'll tell you why. My background is a psychotherapist. I practice and have licenses up the yin-yang for a decade. And I hung up that shingle and I entered into the wireless communication field. Now I build cell towers. But what's interesting about all this work that I've done is that even working with the board, working with people, human nature, and building cell towers, it's all about communication. And so I often refer to my tool as the great cosmic phone, because I've learned I can almost dial with any kind of consciousness. And I'm going to take you through just a little history of mine so you understand where I'm coming from and why I'm excited about this tool, and why I'm excited to be here for the celebration of Ouija, because I've been doing it for so long, and we share a similar birthday, my birthday was this month too, so I'm celebrating my birthday that way while I'm here. Anyway, so let me tell you, when I was 8 years old, I was playing with some friends down the street. My dad was in the military, so we traveled a lot to different bases. I moved a lot. I was used to meeting and making new friends. My girlfriends, they said, hey, come on down to my house, we're going to play a new game. I said, okay. So I go play Monopoly, Candyland, something like that. They pulled out the Ouija board. I really didn't know what they were. I think I might have heard about it, I don't know. This is 1973. So they pulled it out, they started using it. Now I want to tell you the story, I'm going to step in here and interrupt myself, because this is a huge factor in my use of the board, and this factor repeated itself quite a few years later, and it really woke me up to some things in how to use this tool. So they pulled this board out, and these two sisters are sitting there playing around, and then all of a sudden they start talking to this being, they said. I was like, well, who is this? They're having like conversations, like as you would with a girlfriend or your little kid. And they said, it's our dead sister. I said, what? Wait. I didn't know he had a dead sister. Turns out one of the girls was a twin. I did not know that. And her sister died shortly after birth. Yes, they said she's like their age now. One of the girls was like 10, so she would have been 10. I thought, oh my God, they grew up in that other world? You're talking to her? I said, come on, let me try it. I said, they're pushing it. I'm not pushing it. I was so certain they were pushing it. I don't know. It's pretty amazing, the conversations we have with this little girl. They're like, Karen, we talk to her all the time. But the parents didn't even know they were doing this. I run home immediately and said, Mom, Dad, oh my God, it's real. You can talk to the dead. They weren't as excited as I was. They rolled their eyes and they go, yeah. I go, no. This Ouija board. Oh, I had one of those. My mom said, yeah, I think I used one at a slumber party. They didn't buy it, but they said, you know, whatever you like to do, that's fine. I said, don't worry, Santa Claus will get me one for Christmas. I'm not going to answer you guys. Santa will bring me one. Well, lo and behold, Santa did. And so that's kind of started my odyssey with doing the board. If I could back up a little further, people ask me, why do you have such good results on the board? I'll through the story, we'll be talking about that, but I really think it was, when I was younger, I had all kinds of interesting visitations. And by the way, I believe my story is a lot of your stories out there. You're interested in the paranormal, you're interested in the metaphysical, you're interested in the supernatural. I think it all began with probably a lot of similar kinds of stories of visitation, miraculous dreams, experiences. Well, I would see a lot of things in my room, around the place, lights, wars, all kinds of fun stuff. I also had an imaginary playmate, but he wasn't so imaginary. And I will say this, he's still around me. I call it he. And he worked with me actually right my third book. By the way, I write my books to help my spirit guides. They don't channel through me. We just have great discussions, and from that, I write the stories, write the books, just to share a little bit about my experience. So we'll fast forward there from getting that board for Christmas. And I was now beginning to understand I could have communication with these beings that would somehow end up visiting me, whether it was dreams or in my room or I'd see them. And I was really interested, so I went to college to become a psychotherapist. Really, I wanted to be a parapsychologist, but I thought that's not going to go over well. Where do you go to school for that? You know, I'm thinking like in the 80s. And there are places now, I realize that, but I didn't know at that time. So I really got into studying human nature. And that really worked out well with what I was doing with the board, because I was working with really difficult diagnoses, such as what used to be called multiple personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder. And I really got to learn what it is about human nature that can remember things somatically in our body for years and years and reappear as you start recalling the events. And I witnessed some really interesting things that again made me think about our soul has memory. I call it soulular memory, S-O-U-L, soulular memory, that I believe that comes with us and it can also carry through life. And so as I was beginning to communicate over the years with these different beings, entities, deceased people, I began to hear what it was like on the other side. They were always willing to share information. I started out speaking with dead people, deceased people, loved ones who passed on. Casey likes to tell me that's what they call them. And they became I call them my spirit friends. We have relationships. So I also learned you don't talk about this with everybody. there was such a stigma, as many of you know who use the board. So I decided to keep it pretty private and quiet, as I was saying in the beginning, but yet I was still doing my exploration. Then in college, I had another really awakening moment. Up to then, I was speaking with dead people mostly. I hadn't gone into the ethereal beings and angels and guides and all these other characters. I was just thought it was for talking to the dead. I mean, that's what I knew about spiritualism, and I knew about all those great revivals they had, and I thought that's what you do with this tool. You just speak with the dead. Well, Ouija goes to college with me, and I wanted to show everybody, look at this incredible tool. I mean, I've always been excited about it, passionate about it, to say the least. I said, I want to show you guys what this can do. Well, I meet some of my friends that are deceased. But what happened was another story about a sister, very similar to the one that happened in 1973. Now we're like in 1986, so about 13 years later. Okay, so people say, the Ouija board doesn't work. And they say that, they go, well, you blindfold somebody, spin the board around, you're not going to get a message. Hogwash. I did that experiment. And I did it in college. And it's because back then I wanted to prove that this thing really works. I don't really care anymore. I want to share my story. That's it now. It doesn't matter if people believe it or not. So I had a bunch of girls gather. I think there was like 8 or 9 of us in the room. By the way, these stories I'm telling you are all in my different books. This one's in my second book called The Spirits of Ouija, 4 Decades of Communication. And probably the book that brought me here to talk to you all. Because I do consider that my instructional manual from all the years of work of doing this, so people won't have to reinvent the wheel and go through bad times. I want you to have positive experiences to do when you do this work. So I had the girls gather, and I said, okay, we're going to do something for you this time. We're going to go ahead and blindfold ourselves. Now, I knew we would get incredible messages. It wasn't a concern for me if it was going to work. My partner was really good at using it. Up until then, we used my little 1973 board. She had like a 1950 board, a little bigger board than mine. So it was before Parker Brothers. It was a foldable board. And so we put that on our lap, blindfold ourselves. We couldn't see a thing. They all checked. I had somebody else scribe. Typically I write while I'm doing one hand on the planchette. I've gotten really good at that, multitasking. But we had somebody else scribe because I couldn't see the letters. We put our fingers on there, and we just opened it up. And we'll talk about that. We should always do that. We'll talk about that in a moment. My goodness. It flew. It works pretty fast for me now, but wow. I could hardly keep my fingers on that planchette. My partner couldn't either. So this is what happened. We are doing it, flying around, and I hear a little bit of sobbing. So I'm a little shocked, like, do we continue? She's like, no, go on. All of a sudden, boom, it's done. It's about a paragraph message. We were used to getting paragraphs back then. And I said, quick, go ahead and read it, please. Everybody's just sitting there all quiet, like, I don't think anybody really knew what it spelled. It was so fast. So the gal read it. I'm going to read this to you. Because I usually, on radio shows, if you've heard me, I'll tell the story, and I usually try to do it. I never read. But I'm going to read it to you because I think it's pretty incredible. I'm going to get it verbatim. Now, the reason why I know things verbatim is because I keep copious notes of every session. And when I was young, it was more about in my journals or what I could recall. But all these books are full of literal messages that are verbatim. But that's important to me. So we stopped and I said, would you please read what it just said? And this is basically what it said. Hello, Lindsay. This is your sister. I am fine. Tell Mom and Dad that I am fine. So is my boyfriend. We love you all. We are still with you. We felt no pain and died on impact. The only pain we ever felt was the pain the family felt and expressed at our funerals. We are at peace and feel love. Please do not be concerned about us anymore. Know that we love you and will always be with you. We will be with you again. I love you all. I still get emotional when I read that. Because as soon as that was finished, this was a surprise for me. I said, sister, probably not the most appropriate thing to say at the time. And I didn't know this girl had a dead sister. Nobody in the room knew but one person. And she was bawling. And I went, oh my God. I mean, literally, that was all I said. Nobody spoke for, it seemed like eons of time going by. It was probably just a half a minute or a minute at the most. And she was crying. You know, that ratchety cry that comes from deep within. And I went, holy cow. I'm thinking to myself, holy cow, this is huge. Now, not only was she crying, all of us were crying. It was like sharing in that moment when somebody finally has peace, comfort, rest, ability to know that a loved one's okay. And I said at that moment, I just said, what did I say? I kind of opened the can here. I need to say something. I said, okay, this is it. I said, no more fun and games. We're not going to do blindfolding. No more talking to all these earthbound spirits. I said, that's it. This is for healing only. I said, that was my take on it. Some of the gals in the room didn't speak about it ever again. A few did talk to me about it. One wrote a write-up in my second book. And that, I said, what's your most memorable and session that really touched you? And she wrote about that one. I'm like, oh, you do remember that. So that was another profound moment with a dead sister. And I feel like that was enough. And I said, that's it. Now I knew that there was other things we could do with this tool. It was a tool, no longer a toy. And so that just took me to other levels. And since then, I've been working with angels, guides, ethereal beings, which are beings that are of the light, that have never been informed. They're discarnate spirits, and the list goes on and on. I also use the board to communicate with animals, dead and alive. I talk to my very live cats. And I talk to other people's animals too. So, and there's more. There's more and more stuff and abilities, and I realize the consciousness you can communicate with, as long as it's sentient, it just list goes on. And so I really want to work with you today now on the possibilities for your communication, so you can have those good experiences and pick up where I left off or where I am, because there's so much research here to do, and there's so much here to talk about, and I want to hear everybody else's stories. And I appreciate those who've come up. We've had a conversation about your board use or your psychic abilities. I think all that's fabulous, because this is related as well. I find that the more I've been doing this work, on this level now, okay, on this level, it's actually developed my empathic intuitive ability. So I see it as a win-win in many situations. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to ask you, the audience right now, what are your reasons for doing Ouija? Meaning, I'm going to write this down and I'll show you guys, because we're going to talk about this. What are your goals? Why are you doing Ouija? What's your purpose for doing it? And so, would somebody raise their hand and, there's my pen, hold on. Would somebody raise their hand or blurt out? Why do you do it? Why would you want to do the Ouija? Anybody? Okay, she said paranormal ghost investigations and to dig in to get further information about the past. Okay, I'm going to put down investigations. Will that work? Okay, investigations.
So we don't necessarily try to talk to someone who's dead. We use it more as close cognitive tools.
Like investigation research.
Correct.
Okay, excellent. Anybody else? I want a few up here.
Curiosity.
Curiosity, who said that? Curiosity, great. What else?
I used to do it for fun, but now I do it to talk to communicate with on the other side of my family that I have. Before I was a talk to it.
So you basically said loved ones.
Yeah, but
Family members, loved ones.
right.
Some family members aren't loved ones, or don't feel like loved ones. Okay, so I got it.
Yeah.
We'll put family and loved ones.
Yeah, and fun.
Oh,
A lot
okay.
of fun with it.
So fun, when you say fun, what do you mean by that?
I mean, some spirits come through and they're just fun.
Okay.
They tell us funny things about ourselves that, nobody else knows, and it's like, we have to know everything.
Okay.
like that.
So fun, entertainment. I mean, it does bring this whole thing about, it's exciting. I have to agree.
I did have fun going through New York when I raised Dahlman. I got some good advice, like your sister does that.
Right, exactly. And it's the only thing you know. Okay, so I get that. Anybody else? Why else would, okay, please.
Searching for a soulmate instead of going on online dating.
Okay, so soulmate and maybe life information. Okay, anybody else? Okay, that's really good. I do believe that that's really where it starts and where we can take this, because there's ways to go about doing this. This is my visual display, by the way, for you. How about that? There we go. Looks like I'm on the screen. All right, so we've got investigations, research, curiosity, family, loved ones, fun, soulmate, life information. Okay. Down here, my blocks. Okay. This is what I think is important now. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, or we can. But I want to talk to you about how to do these things right here. Because this is really where it starts, and this is where I started as well. And I still go into those spaces because it is interesting, and people come to me and they always want to talk to their loved ones, and I think that's a very valuable thing. And people ask questions like, what's coming up for me? Loved ones, where's my soulmate? Stuff of that nature. So let's talk about this. Let's think of we'll talk about how we're going to be safe with this. I actually detailed 13 steps. I like the number 13. It actually just came out that way. It's funny. How to do this in a manner that's going to be supportive of you. It's not going to be scary, but it's going to help you get to some of this information here. And by the way, I have been asked to do some paranormal investigations and gotten some really great information using this thing too. I agree with what the panel said yesterday. I think all this we concurred that it's really important that we have some kind of spiritual practice in place, whether it's contemplation, reflection, journaling, meditation, dream work, dream recall, but something that allows you to know more about who you are. Because you have to know who you are and the energy you're putting out when you're doing this work. I mean, we all have problems and issues. I mean, be the first to admit that. But many years of therapy, not just as a therapist. And you know, it's good. It's really good because looking at ourselves, and this tool allows you to do this. Because what you start to see out here sometimes might mirror, you know, your intent, your level of energy. So the first thing I want to talk about is intent. These are your goals, and we have to have intent that match that. I say stick with that same intent during the session. Try not to move it around. You don't want to confuse yourself, confuse the energy coming through, whether it's to see people. You probably will meet your spirit guides. They come along after a while. You probably will meet the animals and all that stuff. But keep your intent focused on your goal. If your goal is research and paranormal investigation, that's your intent for that entire session. If it's to find your soulmate, keep that your intent. We don't want to go all over the place. What it does, it creates a safe container, a space, in which you can allow those messages to come. So the number one mistake that I think beginners make on the board is asking only yes and no questions. Now why would that be? Take a stab at it? Any ideas what that'd be? Okay. I don't do it. When I was a little lady, I didn't know what to do. I'll tell you why I don't do it. What I've learned, and I can show you what messages I get. What I learned is I help them learn to spell and use the tool, they're going to use it. And you just know it's black and white. Things aren't black and white. They are shades of gray. And so it's good to allow them to have a voice and to share that voice with you through their messages. But it takes a lot of patience and persistence. So the topic that I'm talking about today is practical Ouija, getting the most mileage out of your planchette. My approach has always been it takes many miles under your planchette on the board to really get those legible, intelligent long-winded paragraphs, even sentences, messages, and it will happen. If you have an aptitude for this and you want to do it, it's going to happen. Now, yeah, some people get a little blocked. That's okay. I've seen it myself with people I worked with, but I've seen them all develop to some level, to some degree with this tool. Yet some of you, and I believe a lot of you here, already have an aptitude because you already are working in this paranormal, supernatural, metaphysical realm. So you have an aptitude to allow yourself to allow the flow of communication. So you want to set the stage for them, meaning when you have a session, you want to create the ambiance. Number one, you create the ambiance by how you feel physically, emotionally, spiritually, all those levels. Mentally, where's your mind? Again, you got to have your intent. That's the first thing you want to do. And you want to have an environment, a space that you use the board, and I say keep it consistent. So I typically do the board at the dining room table. The same corner, I have the same little ritual. You don't really need all these things, but it helps me move into that space to do this work. And that's why I do it. Plus I'm teaching people when they're using the board with me, this will help get you in that space. A lot of people don't practice all this stuff all the time. Meditation or contemplation or reflection or energy work. So you have that ambiance yourself, internally, externally, in the environment. Those are the things you can control. Now, this is interesting, I find. Over the years, there's things I can't control. Get this now. Just like the wireless cell phone towers, if there's inclement weather, sandstorms, solar flares, our towers don't work that well. Guess what? They don't work that well with the spirits either. They have a hard time coming through sometimes, based on atmospheric effects. So I talk about that in my book too, because you really can't control that, unless you can control the weather. Some people may be able to here, I don't know. I haven't been able to yet. Maybe last night with our intentions, we were able to get the rain in California, we definitely need it. Or help the violence out, so we don't have violence out here. So yeah, that's another thing you can't really control, and they can't always come through, but they'll tell you later why, and I received a lot of messages why they couldn't come through. But that's okay. So, that's what you can't control. But when you control your ambience, your setup, how you're going to do this work, you have 85% of it ready to go. The next thing you want to do, and I'm just helping through these steps, because I consider this book, right here, this has become, for me, and a lot of people that read it write me and say, this is the instructional manual to doing this, because in here, it's all in here what we're talking about, and then some. But, because, Ouija doesn't really have instructions. But, okay, so, I always recommend breathing, deep breathing, and I have a special breathing that I learned doing the board work. They actually taught me this breathing technique. But it's called hips to heart. And it's really about grounding into the earth, in your hips, I call it the throne, the sacrum, the sacred area of the body. And then breathing back up to your heart and opening the heart chakra. Bringing in the loving energy. This helps, again, create the atmosphere. Plus it allows you to relax and get in a receptive state. That's the key, to be in a receptive state. Then after you're in that space, I always do a little prayer. It's something I developed over the years too. It started in 1994, I believe, this one prayer, when I got really serious with my work. I'm doing this tool, and I use that prayer. There's a few other things I do. But overall, that's what I do. But however, all the time, I'm doing my other work. I don't feel like needles protection, but I still call it in. I do my meditation. I highly recommend that. Journaling, things you can do, again, on your own. And I'm sure a lot of you are doing those things anyway if you're doing this work and you have curiosity about it. So, okay, so we prepare this session. I think if you were in here yesterday,
Yeah, it's bizarre to me too, but it's now the abnormal's become more normal to me. And I think that veil is so thin between the dimensions that our energy influences theirs and theirs to us. And I think we need to do our work as they're doing their work. When I say work, our intentions, when we cross into that realm or create that bridge. Question back there in blue.
I'm not even sure how to articulate my question. Have you ever had an experience of speaking to the higher self of somebody here that is a currently incarnated person that you may or may not have some difficulties with, but you might want to understand better? Have you been able to connect with the higher self of another living person and get any information from that?
Great question. You walked in a little late, didn't you?
I'm sorry.
You walked in a little
I
late.
did.
Yeah, no worries. Because that's a really critical piece, what she's asking. I don't know if you all heard her. She said, are you able to talk to the higher self, specifically, maybe of a person that you're having a conflict with? Absolutely, 100% yes, all the time. All the time. But now you can't talk to somebody's higher self. Like I can't go, okay, Alex, I'm going to talk to your higher self, unless he gave permission. So if he's open to it on some level, and it's never going to disclose your secrets, that's another thing I've learned. That you don't want, your skeletons are going to come out, which is what I've learned. They're very protective of that themselves. This is another way you know they're good beings. I'm kind of, throughout this talk, I'm giving you pointers on how you can tell if it's good or not. But yes, you can, and I do it a lot, actually. And a lot of times I will just talk to my higher self, and I was telling them, I spent 4 years doing, 3.5, 4 years, doing an experiment with that. And the messages were just so profound and prophetic. But even though it might have been my higher self speaking, it became like I call it like a hive mind. I know it sounds sick, but it's like a group think tank of all the higher selves. 3 of us would do this together, getting together, and these communications could relate to all of us. The messages now that I get can be specific, but as Rosemary knows, they're usually for everybody in the room. So then they pick a topic. What is the nature of evil? And they'll pick a topic like that and ask me a question around the fellow members' question, and then we're supposed to discuss it, and they're supposed to just help us have a deep conversation about it. The higher self works much that way. This is my recent book. I talk a lot about that and how to access that. This really isn't hard. If I can do it, you guys can do it. I mean, I really sat in my bedroom doing this stuff, and all of a sudden here I am.
My question is, I get on the Ouija board and friends want to do this with me. And always in the back of my mind I think, do all the bad stuff. I've been doing it for almost 30 years.
That's right, we spoke.
Right. So I go in, sometimes I'll do it as a crapshoot, like whoever wants to come and talk to me, but I don't really want to do that. That's why a lot of times I'll turn to family and friends. Is it okay to call my spirit guide?
Absolutely.
Call her spirit guide, or
Yes.
somebody that I know I can trust.
I highly recommend that. I'll repeat it. She said she likes to do the board, and she has negative people around her that maybe aren't the best to do it with, but she would just allow a crapshoot to happen, and I did too in the beginning.
Right, and I don't want to do that.
I highly recommend you don't do that, and you'll hear why from Darren Evans. Yeah, no, I recommend you again have your goal. And you know what I do? I have this paper I keep. It's an ongoing, and it's electronic. And I write down what my next session is going to be. And I write down the goal at the top. And my goal now has become working with my spirit guides and friends and anybody that needs, my friends that come and need assistance, for the highest good of all. And that we learn to explore consciousness and increase our awareness in life to make it a little bit easier for ourselves. I think it's a gift. So, yeah, you need to have an intention and a focus. And I would state that when you open the board. I do one more thing, I write it down too. Again, all that's in that book. Because I think that's a great question. If we go about it willy-nilly, you're going to get willy-nilly things. I really believe that. I've done it. Yes, please.
I feel like when we reflect and use the board, we kind of do it for ourselves. But have you ever had an instance where you actually helped whoever you were not necessarily a cause?
No, I know. It touches me. Yes. I've met many spirits who are lost, who want help. It's not me to push my agenda on them. If they don't say, can you help, or ask me, I don't go, do you need help? I gotta release you to the light. I don't, because we're dealing with karma here and soul contracts. I don't know what people's soul contracts are. I don't even know my own. I'm still trying to figure that out. Shit. But okay, so, yeah, I do, and I can tell you how we're doing on time. Okay, I've got to wrap it up here, but I'll tell you real quickly, because it's a beautiful story. I was in Mexico, about 4 or 5 years ago, it's in my book. And unbeknownst to me, my girlfriend brings out her glow-in-the-dark planchette. Now, I was going to Mexico for R&R and golf. Golfer's heaven, and I was thrilled. I wasn't doing Ouija, not because I don't like doing it, because I don't do it all the time. I have other things in my life I like to do. She had that damn planchette pointing at me on the nightstand between our beds. I didn't see it, and she thought it was funny. I'll tell you what happened. I get up, I'm getting ready, we're going to get up like at 6 in the morning, we hit the links by 7. Oh my God, that's early. I wake up like about 3 or 4 in the morning. Now, I do like wine, I like to have my cocktails, not drinking because you have to get up early and be functioning to golf. So I wake up about 3, have to go potty. So I'm walking like quietly, starting to pass her bedroom, her bed, and all of a sudden, boom! A ghost popped up, an apparition of this woman, beautiful, white, like bodice, late 1800s dress, hair up in a bun, Spanish lady, gorgeous. And she went, blah, and flew back, and I flew back and jumped in my friend's bed. And she's like, what? I go, oh my God, there's a ghost in here. She's like, what's your problem? You love ghosts. I said, well, I do if I invite them. I just don't let them come in. And then she's like, it's fine. She's pushing the air. It's gone. It's gone. I said, oh my God, I'll keep the lights on. Now I'm usually not afraid. That one scared me because it was all of a sudden. I went back to bed and I see that the planchette's sitting there. I said, that's like calling 1-900 call Karen. I said, why would you do that? She goes, oh, it's funny. I thought we did Ouija Board. I said, that's not what I wanted to do on this trip. I go down to the breakfast area and I asked in my broken Spanish if there's any kind of ghost in there. I said, La fantasma en mi cuatro noche. I tried to say night, my bedroom night. He's like, whoa. I go, come on. I know there's a ghost here. Apparition. He said, well, as a matter of fact, he had pretty good English. He's like, oh, no. Yo no sé. And I go, come on, you know. He said, as a matter of fact, there's this woman in a beautiful white dress, Spanish looking, and he says she walks the beach at night. It was a adult-only hotel down in Cabo. Very nice. He says, we walk up to her and we say, can we help you, ma'am? And he goes, there she disappears. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. What am I got myself into? And he says, I shouldn't be telling you that, but he goes, also, there's this little girl that in the morning sometimes we see here, and she runs through the dining room, and she knocks plates and napkins, and I'm like, oh, hello, we got some stuff going on here. So, of course, I have to pull out the Ouija board. We do go golfing, we come back, I didn't play well that day. There was too much going on the night before. So we pulled up the board later that day, and we spoke to her. She spoke to me in Spanish. She goes, sustos, if I'm saying it right. I go, no, sustos a mí. I think I said, you scared me, and she said, you scared me. I'm like, okay, we gotta do this in English. That's as far as my Spanish goes. So, with the help of the spirit guide, this is why you want somebody you can work with. They will help you translate. They'll be your bouncers. So, my spirit guides, and it was Sun and Moon at the time. I've been with them they've been with me for a long time. Translate, we got it into English, and she was able to say, I'm looking for my daughter. Where's my daughter? And I went, oh, I know the story about the kid that runs through here. Oh, okay. I said, I really think your daughter's about 50 yards this, or 100 yards this way. It was right on that. And I said, if you walk that way, I think the south, because she didn't see the building. She didn't know she was really even dead. She was it's kind of like that show, The Others, Nicole Kidman. It was weird. It's kind of like I was in a Twilight Zone episode. Felt like it. I told her where, I said, I think I know where your daughter is. I don't know, but let's try this out. So I go down to breakfast the next day, and the guy goes, the weirdest thing was, that little girl, somebody saw her again this morning. I said, I think that lady who walks the beach is her mother. But let's see what happens. Get on the Ouija board again. Teresa, that's her name, was so excited. She goes, oh my Dios, oh my God. She's like, I'm with my daughter again. Oh my God, thank you. I'm like, well, you found her, and heck, you came, and it all works out in the end. And I said to her, do you see your loved ones around? Just seeing where she was, if she wanted help or anything. She's like, I'm just so happy to have my daughter. I'm good. I'm just so happy to have my daughter. I go, okay. Well, if you ever need any help, let me know. That's what I can say. I went down to breakfast again. The guy at this point wanted to be my waiter. And he's like, what happened? I go, okay, what's going on? I said, I don't think you're going to see that little girl anymore. He's with his mother. What happened is, she was married to this wealthy aristocrat from Spain. They were in Mexico. A lot of Spanish were there in those days. And she had this child with him. And I hate saying other things, but it's true. He raped her and killed the daughter by accident. And the mother threw herself in the ocean, drowned herself. Yeah, you hear stories like this, and they'll tell you the stories. Somebody who was asking that earlier, they'll tell you their stories. But I let it unfold. Now, this is the weirdest part of the story, okay? So you think you can only talk to deceased when you're in that locale. Not true. You can talk to them anywhere. They don't have a sense of time, space, continuum like we have. Okay, so I'm back home now. I live in Southern Cal, or south of LA. That same girlfriend comes over to my house. She's like, let's do Ouija. I'm like, oh, I don't know about you anymore. I said, okay. We got on board just to talk to our guides. Teresa immediately came in. Oh, her daughter's name is Sturmy. Very interesting name. It's actually a name for a bird. Sounds pretty. Teresa and Sturmy came in. And she said, Karen, we want to move on. I said, okay, we can do that. Let's work on that. So my angel came in, Mary Angel, who loves to do light work. And she helped them. She worked with them, and I worked with them, and it's like spirit releasement. I learned this when I was doing past life therapy, how to work with them, releasing the trauma, the cellular memory, how to release things that are stuck. So I thought, I'll just do therapy on them, although I've done it before. So it wasn't like the first, but that was one of my more recent ones, and I love that story because there was a reuniting. I'm in a foreign country, I'm not trying to do Ouija, and this stuff just progressed. I learned as I've gone through the years, not asking for it, but it progresses, and that's kind of where it takes you. So I think I have to probably wrap up here. And if you have any questions, I have my booth down at the Netherlands. I'm down at the very end. Have books for sale, and I have a OuijaCon special on my books. I want to thank you all for coming out. Thank you for being here this morning, and love to hear your stories. And I would love to talk to you more about this stuff. I'm so passionate about it, if you can't tell. But this is like one of my favorite things to discuss and to share. So thank you all very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. OuijaCon. Thank you.